All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive innovation that's really shaking up how cars are built. It's called megacasting. Now, it's supposed to make building cars way cheaper and faster, but there's been this one huge question mark hanging over the whole thing. So here's the deal. Automakers are starting to take dozens, sometimes even hundreds, of little parts that used to be welded together, and they're replacing them with one single massive component. Now, for the factory, that's a stroke of genius. But what happens when you, the owner, get into a minor fender bender? Does a little bump suddenly mean your car is a total write-off? Is this a revolution, or is it a nightmare waiting to happen? I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got the old way of doing things, this complicated puzzle of about 90 different panels, all stuck together with rivets and glue. And then on the right, boom, the new way. One single piece of cast aluminum. It's a huge shift, and you can see why it's been making some people a little nervous. So naturally, insurers and car owners started to get pretty worried. The big assumption was that any damage, even minor damage, to this one giant part would mean replacing the entire thing. And that, you'd think, would lead to an absolutely catastrophic repair bill. This concern got so big that it kicked off a major investigation to find out what was really going on. Okay, so let's get into it. A UK-based research specialist called Thatcham Research decided they were going to get to the bottom of this. They launched this exhaustive 2-year study with a really simple goal. Let's crash these cars and see what it actually costs to fix them. And they zeroed in on the Tesla Model Y, which is really a pioneer of this megacast tech. And to make sure they got it right, Thatcham didn't just smash up cars in a lab. No, they combined that with tons of real-world insurance claim data. And for the perfect scientific comparison, they pitted the megacast Model Y against its own sibling, the Tesla Model 3, which, is built the old-fashioned way with lots of different panels. And what they found, well, it completely flips the script on what everyone was afraid of. The results weren't just a little surprising. They pretty much blew the industry's biggest fears about this new technology right out of the water. The data really tells the whole story here. I mean, just look at this chart. In a direct head-to-head comparison for similar rear-end damage, the Model Y with the megacast was consistently and, wow, significantly cheaper to fix than the traditionally built Model 3. But how much cheaper are we talking? Let's talk actual dollars and cents. For a partial replacement, which is, the kind of fix you'd need after most common accidents, the megacast design saved almost $3,000. That's a huge deal, and it's the exact opposite of what everyone was worried about. Okay, but what about that absolute worst-case scenario, right? The one everyone was terrified of, having to replace the entire giant piece. Well, get this. Even then, for a full replacement, the megacast was still more than $700 cheaper to repair than the complicated multi-part car. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds completely backward, right? How on earth can replacing a bigger, single part possibly be cheaper? Well, the secret isn't actually in the giant part itself. The genius is in how it was designed to be fixed from the very beginning. The head of research at Thatcham really just hit the nail on the head here. He said the real magic happens when you think about repairs right from the drawing board. Tesla didn't just design a part, they designed a whole repair strategy for that part. So here's how it works. It's actually brilliant. Tesla basically identified the parts of the casting that are most likely to get hit, the vulnerable spots. And they designed them to be sacrificial and easy to remove. So instead of some complex, specialized welding job, a mechanic can just unbolt or drill out the broken piece and then bolt and glue a new one in. The whole thing becomes a pretty simple mechanical fix. And you have got to see this. This might be the most incredible detail of the whole study. Those little sacrificial pieces we were just talking about, the ones designed to take the hit and most minor impacts, they cost $42. 42! That is less than a tank of gas. It's just an amazing level of foresight. So it sounds like a perfect system, right? Well, before we go and declare this the undisputed future, we should probably know it's not quite perfect. At least, not yet. The research did point out a few important challenges that we still need to figure out. The main hurdles right now are pretty much all about logistics. For the more complicated repairs, you can't just take your car to any old body shop. It has to be a Tesla-approved place with special training. And that can mean your car has to get shipped between shops, which adds time and money. And honestly, these parts are huge, so just handling and storing them can be a real headache for smaller garages. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Look, let's be real. Car makers are switching to megacasting to save a ton of money on the production line. But what this study proves is that when you do it right, when you actually think about the repairs from the start, it becomes a win-win for everybody: the manufacturer, the insurance company, and most importantly, you, the car owner. So it all boils down to this one really powerful lesson. You can't just invent a new way to build something and call it a day. Repairability has to be baked into the design from day one. Tesla showed that it's possible. So the big question now is, as all the other automakers rush to catch up with this technology, which ones are going to learn that lesson?